much. Let's go to Harold Hamm right now. Fascinating figure. When you think about how he made his billions, betting and seeing the potential of just oil and then later on shale, and going against those who doubted him and betted against him. I think it's fair to say they're a lot poorer than he is today. Harold Hamm is the Continental Resources founder, executive chairman, kind enough to join us now. Very good to have you, Harold.
Well, thanks, Neil. It's good to be with you.
You know, you've overcome a great deal in your career, but now you have a global assault on everything you hold near and dear, if you think about it. I mean, just looking at the communique put out by these leaders, they plan tougher curbs on methane gas. They agree to deforestation, to put an end to it by 2030. They say the world's commitment to fossil and traditional fuels must stop in light of the burgeoning new promise of all these other forms of energy. It's almost as if they had you set in their sights. You feel a little like Custer?
Well, yeah, we could, for sure, if we let it bother us, but we don't necessarily do that. We keep doing a job that we know how to do, and this administration has it all backwards. They don't understand economics 101. And so when you want to put your foot on the neck of the industry that basically lowered our CO2 emissions in this country by 25%, we have the cleanest air in America of any place on the globe. So we've done our job, and we're exporting clean burning natural gas around the world when everybody thought we'd be importing it. So we've done a wonderful job with the shale renaissance and drilling renaissance in America, and given us energy security. So anytime you pile on additional regulations and taxes, basically you get back into an era of scarcity. And that's what they've done. They backed us up into an era of scarcity instead of one of abundance. So it stops investments, as you well know, Neil.
I'm just wondering what you make. I think British Petroleum, BP as it's better known, saying that demand is building up toward 100 million barrels a day. And yet here we are stymied in our own country to tap it. And we have lots to tap. What do you think of that?
Well, you know, the thing about it is demand is back. And 100 million barrels a day, it's over that. And certainly with natural gas, you know, we've doubled, you know, how much natural gas that we're producing and consuming. So it's the thing to be doing. It's so much cleaner than the alternatives. And natural gas has certainly done everything we intended to do in America. So it's amazing what's happened. And like I say, this administration has it all backwards. I mean, it's like this last thing on methane. I mean, we put every molecule down the line that we can put down the line. So, you know, let none of it escape. So here he is taking something that really doesn't matter and trying to make a big deal on it over there in Scotland. And let's look at Scotland. What's going on over there? You've got the two biggest, worst polluters. They're not even there. And that's China and Russia. They haven't even showed up over there. And here we are over there apologizing to the rest of the world for what the U.S. has done. I think it's inappropriate.
Now, in the meantime, what started as energy prices spiking has now spread far and wide to a host of other commodities and goods and services spiking as well. This is apparently a lot more than just a transitory problem. Do you think this lingers for a while?
I think it does. Like I say, we backed up into an era of scarcity again, and instead of abundance. And anytime you stop, you know, progressing with investments in the world, you know, that's what you get. So I don't see it turning around very quickly. I mean, look what they did. They put any the federal lands off limits. This is federal lands that have been leased for 15, 20 years, and people have all their money in it, and they won't give you a drilling permit on it. And then they stop any other federal leasing that you may need to put units, drilling spacing units together. So that's about 26% of the land mass out there. And now he's calling OPEC for more oil, you know, and they're calling Russia for more gas. What's wrong with that picture? I said the other day that all they need to do is be making local calls instead of long distance, and instead of trying to make OPEC
They could
richer.
save a lot. They could save a lot on those transatlantic calls. Let me step back, Harold, and take a look at these races going on today, particularly in Virginia, New Jersey, big gubernatorial battles. But the Virginia one is interesting, where you have Glenn Youngkin, the Republican candidate, who seems to have found the perfect sweet spot to address Donald Trump. Don't say anything bad about him. Don't have him come into your state and campaign on your behalf. Keep an arm's distance, but don't alienate him. What did you think, or do you think, of that approach?
Well, I think the approach is great. I mean, he's saying all the right things, and certainly he's a very good candidate, a very strong candidate. I think the American people relate to that, and I certainly think those two states are thinking about it. And we've seen the numbers go toward those two candidates. It'd be a strong statement in Virginia to see that happen, and I think it very well might.
The candidates, of course, seek you out for your support and financial support of that. Have you looked to 2024? Anyone intrigue you? The former president?
There's a lot of good candidates, that I see that very well could lead this country forward and do a very good job. You just saw one on a minute ago responding to Biden there, and
right.
And certainly, that one would be a good choice. I won't throw a lot of names out here, but there's several that could do a very, very good job.
The reason why I ask you, Harold, of course, you can be a kingmaker sometimes in the Republican Party for these positions, and we've already learned that it's very likely Chris Christie, maybe the former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, would run for president regardless of what Donald Trump's intentions are. What do you think of that? What do you think of those who are considering running, whether he does or not?
Well, I think that's certainly going to happen. Without a doubt. I mean, the two you just mentioned, they're strong. Kevin McCarthy, he's strong. There's just several people out there that can do an awfully good job.
Now, in the meantime, you're not just, looking at Republicans. I know you have been either directly or indirectly, providing funding for Joe Manchin. Lately, he's got a little aggressive back and forth with progressives in his party over these dragged-on talks. Do you think this push that some of those progressives have that he should leave the Democratic Party is going to push him out of the Democratic Party?
Well, certainly, my hat's off to Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. They've held the line, against these crazy things that's going on, and we can't afford $500 billion, for the Green New Deal. That's just a huge burden on American taxpayers that we don't need right now, and it's totally unnecessary. We need to get to IQ versus EQ on climate, and that's been my whole push, and certainly they get it. They know the difference between throwing more money on something that just doesn't work. And so it has to be a global effort, and I can't deal with China. I can't deal with Russia. It takes a government to deal with them. But certainly going to have to get them in the mix. I mean, when you've got China saying we're not going to do anything until 2060, India saying we're not going to do anything until 2070, that's 50 years from now, folks. We're not any of us going to be around to think about that. So we have to get to IQ versus EQ. It's not emotional territory. This is intelligence that we need to be talking about. So my hat's off to Joe Manchin. He's seeing a click, click, click of inflation taking place, and he's standing up there against the tide, and he's done a wonderful job, and I'm very proud of him.
Harold, real quickly, I'd be remiss, since you're a pretty savvy investor in your own right. I mean, looking at the markets now, All three major market averages are into record territory again. I think for the NASDAQ, it's like 6 days running. Are these markets toppy to you, or are they justified? These areas where they're, in nosebleedy territory, that it's all justified?
No, I think they are justified. I said there was a lot of pent-up demand earlier during the Trump administration, and that proved to be true. And I think that demand is still there as long as it isn't squelched. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of things going on that's squelching demand and making a lot of investors uneasy. When you get, talking about the type of taxes, tax treatments that this administration is talking about, and then the kind of spending that they've done. I don't know about you, but in Oklahoma, do we need a huge infrastructure bill? I don't think so. The problem going anywhere today on our roads is road construction. You can't go any direction hardly without being shut down because the roads tore up because they're reconstructed and have been for the last 3 years.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it goes on and on and on. Harold Hamm, a real pleasure talking to you again. Be well. Have a wonderful holiday season. Harold Hamm, the Continental Resources founder.